Hi everybody, welcome to EcoDriver. My name is Helmut. Today we go out on the EcoDriver loop with the Volvo XC40 T4 Recharge. This is the one of two plug-in hybrid X40s from Volvo. That's the weak one, the T4. There's also the T5. We have here the 3-cylinder engine with 1.5 liters, 95 kilowatts, 129 horsepower. The electric motor delivers 60 kilowatts, 82 horsepower, and we have a 7-speed double clutch gearbox. Unladen weight is 1,812 kilograms, around 4,000 pounds. And apart from that, WLTP electric range 45 kilometers. That doesn't really matter here for this test. And the traction battery is 10.7 kilowatt hours gross. I've already done the electric range test with this car with, as usual, very good result. I put the link for this video up at the end. And with this car we now do the test, the economy test with the empty battery, just to find out how efficient is the drivetrain irrespective of the size of the battery. The route we're doing is the same as usual. We start in the southern outskirts of Innsbruck, go out of town for about a kilometer in a 30 kilometer per hour zone, or 20 miles per hour zone. Then we have an ascent which elevates us around 360 meters, 1100 feet, followed by some rolling hills, a descent, some mixed roads with speeds ranging from 30 to 100 kilometers an hour, 20 to 62 miles per hour, motorway, although we are restricted to 100 kilometers an hour there, and 18 kilometers, 11 miles of city traffic. The cameras will be on all the time in order to show how am I driving to achieve the consumption that I will have achieved at the end, and also to show that there's no need to go slow to be efficient. If you watch my video of the electric range test, you see that it wasn't me who was the slow car on the road, on the contrary. And after every section, we check the overall and sectoral consumption, and at the end we analyze the data, and then we know more about this car. In between, I will give you some tips and tricks how to drive more efficiently, and I hope you enjoy this, and I'll talk to you later. .3 liters per 100 kilometers at the end of the climb. You might have noticed that at the beginning the consumption was quite high. This is because the petrol engine was charging the battery. Battery was low. Was not low, was empty, almost empty. And most plug-in hybrids try to put some basic state of charge into the battery, just for later use, to use the potential of the hybrid. And this might lead to the false conclusion that if plug-in hybrids are not charged externally, they have a very high consumption. No, they don't. It appears at the beginning that their consumption is high, but during the course of the trip, then this goes down, and at the end you'll be probably, 20, 30, 40, 50% lower than with a regular combustion engine. We're now coming onto the hills, and here it's important to play with the road, to use the opportunities that the nature or the builders of this road give you on the way down. Build up some momentum and use this on the way up, and try to avoid maintaining the speed at all costs on the way up when you know it's going down afterwards. You might have noticed the white Peugeot van in front of us. He's not from here, so he's a tourist, and it seems that he doesn't know the road. And on the very steep section at the beginning of it, he braked the car, so he slowed down the car and was then way too slow at the beginning of the climb and had to accelerate in the climb, and that is naturally not very efficient. So knowing the road definitely helps. So we now have here 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. We're now coming on to the descent, and I'm switching back to the power meter gauge so that you can see how strong I am braking. Why? The problem with some or the majority of PHEVs and some weaker electric vehicles is that the electric engine isn't very strong. So you cannot produce, or it cannot produce enough power to brake the car if you brake too harshly. So it's important to keep the gauge, in this case, out of the orange part of the scale on the very bottom, because this means that the friction brakes are used. And in order to be efficient, we should try to avoid this, so that we can regenerate as much energy as possible. That naturally requires to drive with enough foresight, to read the road, to not brake too late. .8 liters at the end of the descent. Yeah, it's not only the tourists who don't know how to drive, it's also the local people who obviously don't know how to drive a car. I'm not even talking about efficiently, driving in general. You might have seen the two flat sections, especially in the second one. He was going into the flat section way too slow with not enough momentum, and therefore he had to accelerate, or we also had to accelerate in the flat section, which normally I wouldn't have to do with this car, but unfortunately we had him in front of us. We're now coming onto the mixed roads, and here we have speed limits ranging from 30 to 100 kilometers an hour, 20 to 60 miles per hour, hopefully no roadworks. And here it's important to, as usual, look ahead, read the road, try to avoid braking. If you have a change of speed from 80 to 60 or 100 to 80, lift your foot off the accelerator early enough to keep the vehicle rolling, to coast towards the lower restriction. Try to avoid braking. And yes, this is an electric car, but it's still inefficient to brake, even if you regenerate, because you never get back what you invested beforehand. And therefore, even with an electric car, try to avoid braking. what I will do, we're coming now on the motorway, and what I will do on the motorway is I will use the charge mode to charge the battery, and to use this then later on in city traffic. Why does this make sense? Well, the combustion engine on the motorway with 100 kilometers an hour, which are restricted to, is very inefficient when the load is very low, and the load is low when we go 100 on the motorway. So to increase the load and therefore increase the efficiency, we charge the battery. So there is a higher load on the engine and on the combustion engine, and this then will increase the efficiency, and we can use the electricity then at the end. Now at the end of the motorway we have 5.8 liters per 100 kilometers, although this isn't really representative for this car, as this time I have used the charge mode, which I didn't do with other cars. But we check this at the analysis at the end. Now we're coming onto city traffic, and here it's important to read the road, look ahead, try to anticipate what other road users are doing, try to anticipate how the traffic lights are shifting, and here it's helpful if you know the road or if you know the route, and most trips are done on regular routes, be it for a commute to work, for shopping, whatever. So make use of the knowledge you have of the patterns of your regular route. Well, 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers, despite those all those vehicle movers on the road. We don't have a ECVT gearbox, we don't have a Atkinson engine. So, considering all these facts, then I think 4.9 liters plus 4,000 pounds of unladen weight, yeah, that's not too bad. And now, the details. So now let's have a quick look at the detailed consumption, the sectoral and overall consumption of the Volvo XC40 T4 Recharge on the eco-travel loop. You see the detailed numbers here, hopefully in your unit 2. And when you have a look here, we see the comparison with the other plug-in hybrids I have tested so far. We see that the Volvo is amongst the better ones, apart from the ones equipped with the ECVT hybrid gearbox from Toyota, which you also find in the Ford, in the Kuga Escape. Yeah, 4.9 liters, that's really not bad. And you see here the motorway consumption is a bit higher. Yes, it is, because with this car I have charged the battery during the ride on the motorway with constant speed of 105 kilometers an hour, 62-65 miles per hour. It makes sense, as the load on the engine is just very low, and therefore it makes sense to charge the battery and therefore increase the load on the combustion engine. Yeah, we benefited from that then in city traffic with 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and overall we have the 4.9. But one thing is important, if you charge the battery on the motorway, and I would recommend to do it only on the motorway with a little bit higher speeds, I'd say about above 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles per hour. Only do this if you can drive constantly. If you have a constant pull on the vehicle, if it's some kind of stop-and-go traffic, if you always increase and decrease the speed. Well, the moment you decrease the speed with a plug-in hybrid or with a hybrid in general, normally the engine goes off because there is no power needed. But if you are in charge mode, then the engine keeps running and keeps charging the battery. I have no scientific evidence for that, but my gut feeling is that this isn't really very efficient. And therefore, if I see I run into some traffic and I have to constantly change the speed, I switch the charge mode, off, and just charge the battery when I'm reducing the speed, or try to avoid braking and therefore not charging at all. But I try to avoid charging when the vehicle would be coasting normally. Driving efficiently with a plug-in hybrid, the usual rules apply as well. I have mentioned some of them in this video, and if you want to know more about that, then you can check this out here. These are my 5 tips, but for how to drive PHEVs more efficiently. And down here you find the range test, in EV mode with this very car, where we have, of course, exceeded the WLTP range, and I think it's very interesting. So that's it for the Volvo. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.